Welcome to the Road of Champions. Welcome to the Road of Champions. I'm your host, Brian Sweeney, the voice of the Women's Football Alliance Pro Division National Championship game. Last weekend was a great kickoff to the 2025 season with great action across all fields in all games. Let's take a quick look now at some great hits from opening weekend. When we come back, we will check out scores and highlights from opening weekend. Welcome back. It was a great weekend for the Women's Football Alliance. Here's the scores and highlights from the Pro Division. The Minnesota Vixen welcomed one of the newest members of the Pro Division, the Nebraska Pride, on a beautiful night in Minnesota. With Minnesota giving Nebraska their only loss of the 2024 season, the Pride were looking for redemption in 2025. With a great rookie class and the return of many veterans, including the now unretired Red Bryant, the Vixen came out on top 41-0. These two teams will meet again to end the regular season on June 14th. The Dallas Elite Mustangs started their season on the road when they headed north to play the reigning national champions St. Louis Slam. In a late change, the Slam had to change the location of their home opener. However, that did not change the way the Slam came out to play. The Slam wanted to keep their winning streak alive and have now entered double digits while blanking Dallas 61-0. The Cali War were on the road at the Nevada Storm. Last season, when these two teams met, the War came out on top in both meetings. The Storm has turned for 2025, and as a result, they were able to beat the War 30-24. Look for a rematch of this game in California on May 17th. And the newest WFA team, the Philadelphia Phantoms, welcome one of the league's oldest teams, the DC Divas. After a 1-5 season in their previous league last year, the Phantoms were hoping that the slide into the WFA would make them a powerhouse. Standing in their way in Week 1 was the 25th year DC Divas. The Divas entered this game as one of only 3 WFA Pro teams to have only Pro teams on their schedule, and they are looking to make every game count, including this one, with an impressive 71-0 shutout. On June 14th, these teams will meet again to end the regular season in DC. Alex had a chance to view the highlights of these games and filed this report.
Well, Brian, there's a lot of things that when we look at this 2025 campaign, we knew parity was going to be what we saw throughout the WFA this season, but we really saw it to start this 2025 season. We didn't know what we were going to get out of the Philly Phantoms, but the DC Divas proved to be a very difficult matchup for them in this opening week of the season. Even more so, you look out west, you see the Nevada Storm, a team that wasn't much of anything a year ago, having already here in this first week in 2025 a big statement win over their rivals, the Cali War. A very exciting start to this 2025 WFA campaign.
And now in the first game of the week from the 2025 season, the Pittsburgh Passion traveled south to play the Tampa Bay Inferno. This game was the WFA premiere on the All-Women's Sports Network. In the 2 meetings between these teams in the 2024 season, Tampa put up 15 and 13 points. Flash forward to 2025, and they again are in the teens while the Passion continue to push the ball both on the ground and in the air, ultimately moving to 5-0 over the Inferno in the last 4 seasons, this time by a final score of 42-13. These teams are used to seeing each other often, and this game proved just that. Alex, your thoughts on this game?
Brian, this was a matchup that we knew had the potential to be one way versus another. I said a week ago on this program that it ultimately relied on how the battle in the trenches was going to be won. Both of these teams, very good offensive and defensive lines, but looking just at that score line alone, it tells me that the Pittsburgh Passion had a superior offensive line, giving time and space for not just the ball to be thrown, but for that running game to develop for the Pittsburgh Passion. As of this recording, we don't have stats yet for that contest, but what we do know, again, is that final score line. You know that when you have a game against the Pittsburgh Passion, if you're scoring in the teens, it's not going to be enough to be able to win you that football game. And if you can't hold the Pittsburgh Passion to a mid-20s score, that's not going to be enough to be able to put yourself in a position where you can walk away with victory, whether that's in Tampa Bay or whether that's in Pittsburgh. You have to be able to limit the offense for the Passion and be able to create good opportunities when you have the football. Tampa Bay didn't do that. Yes, they were able to get the ball moving. Yes, they were able to get some points, but at its most basic, until the Tampa Bay Inferno have those weapons that they can contend with and contend against a team like the Pittsburgh Passion, or what we saw from DC against Philadelphia, this is a team that right now in Tampa Bay looks like they're pegged for that third or fourth spot in the WFA, in the National Conference, and they don't have the pieces around them to be able to move up. Yes, they have All-Americans. Yes, they have really good pieces, but until they put those together and start scoring points to reflect the talent that they have, they're stuck. And for Tampa, that's a really tough place to be, being stuck in a national conference that for this year is wide open. Meanwhile, Pittsburgh, again, anything less than a trip to Canton, Ohio is a failure for them, and they started off this season well, having that offense rolling and getting the defensive stops they needed to start this 2025 campaign with a 1-0 record.
When we come back, we will look at the Week 2 matchups. Welcome back. Now, let's look at the Week 2 matchups. The 0-1 Philly Phantoms are on the road to play the 0-1 Virginia Panthers of Division II. In Week 1, both of these teams were shut out, so it will be interesting to see whose offense gets on the board first. The 1-0 St. Louis Slam take their 10-game winning streak and high-powered offense on the road when they travel to play the 1-0 Columbus Chaos of Division II. This will be the only game against a Pro Division team this season for the Chaos, who are looking to improve on the single-win season of 2024. These teams met last season, with St. Louis opening up the season with a 62-point differential. The 1-0 Nevada Storm are also on the road when they travel to play the 1-0 Division II Salt Lake City Wildcats. Nevada, straight off an impressive win, needs to keep the momentum going in a tough American Conference in the hopes of making the playoffs for the first time since 2022. The 0-1 Cali War are on the road for the second straight week when they are welcomed by the 1-0 SoCal Magic of Division III. For the Magic, this will be their only game this season against a Pro Division team. For the War, they need a quick rebound after getting a heartbreaking loss last week against the Storm. And in Pro versus Pro games, the 0-1 Dallas Elite Mustangs have their home opener when they welcome in-state competition the Houston Energy. Last season, when these teams met, it was Houston coming out on top 41-22. The Passion, Inferno, Divas, and Vixen are on byes in Week 2. Alex shares his thoughts on the Pro Division sending teams on the road this early in the season against lower division teams.
Well, Brian, I really like the idea that the WFA Pro Division teams are starting this 2025 regular season on the road. I think what it means more so for the Division II and the Division III teams is that you're not having your playoff chances affected later on in the season by having those Pro Division games, and where all of a sudden you have a good result, well, it affects you and it affects other teams that are in that same bubble, in that same playoff bubble at Division II and Division III. But I think more importantly, it gives those lower division teams a chance to see just where they stack up. I think that we've seen now, as there's been more and more promotions from Division II up to WFA Pro, is that the gap between the WFA Pro and Division II is not as far as it is, or at least it could be, but it's something that's getting closer and closer as these teams continue to share the same resources resources and have the ability to compete against each other on a regular basis. And so you get that measuring stick early just to see what you have and how it compares to the best of the best in the WFA.
And in the game of the week, the 0-1 Nebraska Pride spend a second week on the road, this time when they head west to play the Mile High Blaze. Last season, when these two teams met, it was decided by only 4 points, with the Pride on top 13-9. This game will air live on the All Women Sports Network at 8 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Mountain Time. This will be a rare instance where we see two previous Division II national championships play each other in a nationally televised game. Alex Wested is back to share his opinion on this matchup.
Well, Brian, I think the bigger question is not just can either team make a name for themselves, it's does either team have the pieces to be able to make the name for themselves and contend. We think about this American Conference as this conference with St. Louis at the top, and they very clearly reasserted themselves there after their win against Dallas last week. Then there's a great wide middle where there's all these teams that we don't have an idea in terms of where do they rank against each other because there isn't enough data points yet. It's been 1 week. But when we look at both of these teams in this week's game of the week, we look at Mile High, we look at Nebraska, we look at something that the two of them have in common. And right now, it's their last game that they played was a loss to the Minnesota Vixen. For Nebraska, in their case, a 41-0 loss in Edina in Minnesota here on Saturday. You looked at that Nebraska Pride, a team that has always had a pro style of offense, that has always had the offensive structure to be part of that pro level of play. They didn't have it. They didn't have it against the Minnesota Vixen, a team that in the Vixen has questions in the secondary and has questions in that linebacking core, maybe on the defensive line, but Nebraska couldn't do anything against the Minnesota Vixen as they had done previously. This is a Nebraska Pride team that under Brittany Meyer a year ago was able to produce the most points in Division II and put 70 burgers up on opposition, including in the Division II championship game, a 30-point performance against a very strong defense in West Palm Beach. This is an aberration for the Nebraska Pride to be shut out. Even if they have not played the Vixen well over the course of their tenure, they deserved better than what they performed on Saturday night. Meanwhile, the Mile High Blaze bring another great season of defensive-minded football into this game. They had good wins a year ago against pro teams, including twice against Nevada and 1 time against Cali. But for the Mile High Blaze, they need something more aside from great defense. Leilani Kamal is a great story. That is indisputable. But what is disputable is the offense which Mile High has. They cannot pass the ball. They cannot run the ball, or at least that's what the statistics say from 2024. Looking at this Mile High team, Kimberly Santa-Steven, a total of 11 completions for 123 passing yards. At the Division II game, you can get away with that. You cannot get away with that at the pro level. The running game was okay last year. Mary Ramos, 673 yards, averaging 8.1 yards per carry with 7 touchdowns. But they need more versatility when they go up against the big teams at WFA Pro. You look at the other games that they played. OKC Lady Force beat them twice and held Mile High to 7 points in those 2 matchups. You look at their matchup against the Minnesota Vixen that ended their 2024 campaign. 13 points on the board, including the game before that to end the regular season, scoring just 9 against the Nebraska Pride. Mile High is a great city. Denver is a great city, has a great fan base and a great ownership group. But I think we all agree that until Mile High has more offense, especially in the passing game, this is a team that's going to be handcuffed in terms of how far they can go in the WFA. Because until they develop that passing game, they cannot get past Minnesota that has a passing game. They definitely can't get past St. Louis, which will tear them apart through the air every single time. So for both of these teams in Nebraska and in Mile High, the question is, for Mile High, where does the offense come from? And if it's not the ground game, it's got to be through the air. And for Nebraska, can they regain the form that they had last season? Brittany Meyer is not a part of that Nebraska roster as of this time. From what I can tell, she is not part of this roster, and they need to answer those questions quickly because a quarterback should not be the defining player on a team a year ago that put up so many points it would make college football teams blush. They need to get back to their regular form and figure out where was the issues in week 1 against a good Minnesota defense, and how can they carry that into a better performance here in week 2 against Mile High.
We will be right back. Welcome back. Last week, Lois Cook sat down with T. Roberts of the Tampa Bay Inferno. This week, she continues her segment of getting to know the players across the Pro Division as she sits down with Britt Peterson of the Nebraska Pride in her segment, A Timeout with Lo.
Britt Peterson, free safety for the Nebraska Pride.
It's definitely the love of the game. Colley takes the snap. It's intercepted again. This time it was intended for Greenland, but it was picked off by your favorite of mine once again. Everyone's favorite, Britt Peterson, with her second interception for a touchdown.
That's a complicated question. Probably for the competitive nature of it. It's a different sport than any that I've ever played before. There's obviously the physical aggression, but the mental aspect of it, I think, is underrated until you play it and you realize how much really goes into it.
An option again. Mayer takes the snap. She's going to throw it to her left. She's got a receiver in the way, and what a beautiful catch. Once again, a great catch by Britt.
Position and your energy on the field, and who is Britt on the field?
Yeah, I would say I'm a pretty feisty vocal leader, but I also like to lead by example. I'm a hard worker, and I hold myself to a pretty high standard, and I try to hold all of us to that same high standard. And I'm also going to be the first to cheer you on when you do something good, pick you up when you're down.
Waits the snap, drops back, looks to her left, throws the ball. She's got a wide open receiver, but no, instead it is intercepted, and it's ran in for the pick six by Britt Peterson.
What is being in the WFA mean to you?
I think that being part of the WFA is just anything we can do to grow the game for women and for girls, I think is something special. The WFA does a lot to continue to grow the game, and I just think being a part of that is awesome.
Man, everybody just put themselves aside and came together for the team, and that's been true from day one. And so no matter what kind of adversity hit, no matter what we went through, we lose to the Vixen, we come back, we regroup, and it takes everybody, you know what I mean? Like it's not
you have had some challenges recently. Can you talk about your challenges and how you've overcome them?
Yeah, so I played through the postseason last year with a herniated disc in my back, and it was like a 10 out of 10 pain. I'm excited for this season. It'll be cool to kind of see what I can do having come back from that. Being able to get back to and hopefully beyond the level that I was at last year. So I also think that the experience has helped me grow mentally and in my mental toughness. It's also helped me listen to my body more. I'm competitive, so I'm always one to push. And this has helped me learn when it's okay to kind of pull things back, kind of put some things in perspective.
What would it mean to be selected as MVP of the league?
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge honor to be here for my team to have put me in this position. I think it's awesome to be here with the other incredible athletes in the league. I think being MVP of the WFA, I think you've got, as a player, you've got two goals. You want your team to be the best of the best, and then you as an individual, you want to be the best of the best. So I think it'd be an incredible honor.
Last week, we shared a video of 8-year-old Elena attending practice with the Minnesota Vixen. She was invited to the game where she was an honorary captain and also took part in the coin toss. Remember, if you have a story or a video that you feel fans of the Women's Football Alliance would love to see, don't forget to send them to us at roadofchampions@gmail.com. For Lois Cook and Alex Westhead, I'm Brian Sweeney, and we'll see you next week on the Road of Champions.